Good morning, everyone. We will be starting shortly. We are just waiting for the IT group to go live on Facebook as well as on YouTube, but we will be starting soon. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Molweni nonke. Thank you for joining the MBDA conversations today, and also thank you for your patience as we're sorting out our IT complications. Just to welcome you all in today's conversation, Siyanamkela nonke. We are excited to have you and to welcome even those who are joining us on YouTube as well as on Facebook under the MBDA platforms. My name is Oasi Pemkhalisa Umampehle Ngestuko, and I will be facilitating today's engagement under the topic Digital Jobs, Digital Economy, and Digital Future. This webinar has been brought to us all by the Mandela Bay Development Agency as part of their Revive mandate. It has been an ongoing conversation series, which I have been happily part of throughout since last year. We hope since the beginning of this year, we hope that we will share the enlightenment on how the fourth industrial revolution is shaping digital platforms. The digital space is shifting, and I cannot wait to hear from the panelists today and you participants on the shifts on the digital space, the opportunities that it presents for jobs, as well as the economy, and ultimately what it means going into the future, particularly when we look into the South African context. And this conversation comes at a time where our economy is extremely challenged, demanding new markets, which could or would translate to new jobs created. But how do we reframe our conception of work in a future far different from one we have experienced in our lived history and that we are experiencing now? How do we adequately prepare the youth for employment in the digital economy and also shape the digital identity? Well, today's interlocutors will share more on the topic. And you are also asked to join in the conversation by utilizing the chat section for your comments or ask questions, which I will read towards the end of the discussion. And this goes to also the Facebook pages as well as the YouTube page that we are currently live streaming on. Please share your comments and your sentiments as well as your questions on the chats, and we will look out for them and then tell and respond throughout the conversation. Please also keep your mics and videos off to avoid disruptions. Starting off in the conversation based on the program that you have today is Ms. Anushka Soma Patel, who is the product manager of Atala. She has over 20 years experience in IT and Lean, consolidated with her MBA and experience in various industries, which empowered Anushka to explore blockchain with an open mind and much curiosity since 2018. She has performed many roles as the co-chair of the South African Financial Blockchain Consortium Identity Working Group. She was also a guest lecturer for blockchain at the University of Stellenbosch Business School, as well as the University of Cape Town FinTech program. She was the lead writer of the African Union Blockchain Report. She has also been invited to many other engagements in various platforms, including the Blockchain Conference, and as an advisory working group member of the IMZA project. She is qualified to collaborate both locally and abroad to move the dial on digital identity in South Africa and the rest of the world. Well, without wasting any time, allow me to call upon Ms. Anushka Soma Patel. Over to you.
Thanks, Asipe, for that elaborate introduction. And thanks for having me share my insights with the team today. Let's get going. Okay, there we go. So yes, I've had a great introduction by Asipe, so thanks so much for that. So just to note that I am currently employed as a product manager for ecosystems for the Atala Prism product by a company called Input Output. Input Output has built the Cardano blockchain, and we're also building a lot of other infrastructure and products on this blockchain. So you will hear more about it later as well. I actually felt that this diagram helped us understand a bit more. You know, when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we're not just talking about one technology or two technologies. There's a myriad of technologies that will actually, you know, come together and that will lead to major shifts in digital products and services. And even though my focus today is on blockchain, I thought I'd put in one or two examples basically of how I think the future would look. So one example would be, you know, many of us study long degrees, and then we wait to get our certificates so that we can land a good job and live a good life. And what I believe will happen in the future is that we would take on small micro courses, learn very specific things, and we will be given micro recognitions for this micro learning that we do that will help us build our digital reputation. And while all of this was just spoken about before, we are actually starting to see some of the infrastructure and tools coming about to start building our digital reputations, to start taking micro learning courses, and to start doing gig work, which is small pieces of work. You know, instead of having a job for life or 5 jobs over your lifetime, you know, you now have the ability to take on small tasks and be remunerated for these tasks. We also see a future of the data economy. So today, many organizations would, you know, collect our data and monetize our data and make money from our data. But I do see a future where we will be in control of our data. We will be able to share data with organizations and potentially even be remunerated for the data that we're sharing, because it will help organizations get insights, which will help them to develop their products and then sell more products. So there will be opportunities for us to start learning and earning quite quickly. So how is blockchain shaping the fourth industrial revolution? And I've chosen this picture to help explain how blockchain is actually helping us. If you think of our purchasing experience many years ago, it was really face-to-face. There was no internet. Then came along the internet, and it's called Web 1. This is where a few people created content and shared information, and there were many people reading this information. We then transformed to Web 2, and this is where there were many more people that were able to add information to the internet, with even more people consuming that information. But you normally have a lot less producers than consumers of information. Then came along Web3, and this gave us the ability to start creating accounts with usernames and passwords and start purchasing products online. Sometimes you don't know whether your product's going to reach you after you've paid for it. And this brings about the question of trust. So if I go onto eBay, can I trust that my product will arrive? Most probably. If I go onto other platforms that are less familiar, can I trust that my product will arrive? Maybe, maybe not. And then we have Web 4 that's now come about. And this is your blockchain type of world. A lot of people call it, say that blockchain is going to enable the internet of value. One of the early things that we saw in blockchain was the creation of escrow accounts. And this is where you can purchase something online, transfer your money into an escrow account, and then when you confirm that you've received your product, the money can be released from the escrow account. And this does not have to be enabled by blockchain. It can be enabled by other technology stacks. But the ideas that blockchain has introduced to the world is definitely helping to shape some of the experience that we will have, as consumers of these services. And we are starting to see in the blockchain world some of the basic building blocks that are put in place, and there's a lot more that's still being built. And this is where the opportunity arises, for jobs, and for us to participate in creating the future. So if I dive deeper into blockchain, we saw that blockchain started off with cryptocurrency, which was the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. And I would urge our listeners to go and read the very short white paper on blockchain, on Bitcoin, sorry. And what we have created here with cryptocurrency is the ability to transfer money peer-to-peer without it having to go through a full-on institution that is responsible for making sure that the money moves from person A to person B. This is enabled by decentralized infrastructure. And one of the important things that you will read in the Bitcoin white paper and in other white papers when it comes to blockchain solutions is that they incentivize the expected behavior, and the incentives are meant to help secure the solution. Okay, and when we look at cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have a public record, so you can go onto a website and you can see that wallet now. that diamonds have been produced ethically and things like that. So the ability to trace the origin of products, and in my mind, it will also trace, have we been able to recycle all of the waste that we've produced from creating products? So I think we'll be able to track cradle to grave different products that have come about. And then we've also seen peer-to-peer music platforms, and the music industry also has a lot of intermediaries involved. And this is where, as music producers, you can say, person A, B, and C need to get X% every time the song is sold, and the smart contracts can facilitate that happens. And then one of the other use cases, which I really delved deeper into, was identity and digital identity. Because when people had a look at the technology and what it's able to create, they realized that actually this is a great use case for digital identity, or this is great technology that can enable digital identity. But the main thing to note is that, unlike the cryptocurrencies where everything is public, and anyone can view the information on certain blockchains, with digital identity, we need to remember not to store personal identifiable information on the blockchain, because this personal information is stored on a storage place on your phone or in a cloud storage place. And then the data is actually shared peer-to-peer. And we need to realize that trust is created within the ecosystem by trusted issuers and trusted verifiers. So the basic way in which this would work is that I would have an identity wallet or an app on my phone, and I would be able to say, hi, I'm Anushka, I want to buy a funeral product. And maybe I'm interacting with an organization that says, oh, you say you're Anushka, but maybe you're not. So how do we actually verify that this is really without seeing you? And so they may start asking for my identity. They may ask for in-person contact to verify that is me, and so on and so forth. However, if Home Affairs, for example, were to issue my government ID into my identity wallet, and this is data now moving from the government into your identity wallet instead of you getting a piece of paper, and the bank is able to say, I confirm that Anushka has a bank account with us. The bank has the ability to revoke that bank account credential that they give me if I close my bank account. I can then say, let me apply for a funeral product. I connect with an insurance company. They request information from me. I can share it with them directly. And then start saying, well, how do we know that we can trust this identity that Anushka's given me? And one of the ways in which people are talking about creating this trust is through having a governance authority that will develop a governance framework and create a trust registry and manage the trust registry, so that the issuers of these credentials can be listed in the trust registry, so that when I say, oh, can I get a government issued ID, it's not some stranger that's issuing me the ID. I can actually check in the trust registry that this is how the government is identified, and I can trust that they are the ones actually issuing me the ID. And the verifier can also say, okay, this identity that Anushka shared was issued by the government and not someone I do not trust. And that is how we're looking at trust being enabled within this ecosystems that are being created in the digital identity world. There's also a foundation called Trust Over IP Foundation that's actively working on building out this new layer of the internet. And if you become a contributing member in Trust Over IP, as an example, you start learning with the masses and you start shaping this digital future that we are all working towards. So our vision is to enable trust in a connected world. Currently, I'm speaking for Atala Prism because that is where my knowledge lies at the moment, and there may be other organizations doing similar things. So Atala Prism, as an example of a blockchain identity solution, is currently being used by the Ministry of Education. It's a 5-year project that is ongoing, and they've taken the first steps to start issuing the first identities, and we aim to reach 5 million students, 750,000 teachers, in Ethiopia that will be working with digital identities going forward. We also get involved in advocacy, and this is where we realize that we can't just be creating technology out there without educating people on how to use the technology or how the technology will be used. So we also start getting involved in conversations quite early on to make sure that we help shape legislation and we advocate for what we believe in terms of creating more fairness in the world and more equality in the world. And then we've also got a project that's run with Dish as an example. And here they're using a combination of digital ID and NFTs to expand their loyalty program and their loyalty ecosystems. So as an organization, we're also looking at how do we unlock the magic through the convergence of self-sovereign identity and cryptocurrency, because we really believe that once you have the ability to securely share trusted information peer-to-peer, the magic will happen when you start creating business use cases. And typically, I want to buy a product, I send you information, you send me the product, and I pay you for it. So the exchange of information and money is what's going to make this really valuable and enable this internet of value that we talk about. The next thing is DAOs and governance protocols. And here we have an innovation project called Project Catalyst. It runs every quarter. And in this quarter, there is $16 million worth of ADA in funding that's available for innovators to build on top of the Cardano blockchain. And this for me was fascinating because I've always tried to get involved in the blockchain space and get involved in the community and understand, well, how do I secure funding for ideas that I have and ideas I want to bring to life? And it was quite challenging. And right now, now that I work within the Cardano ecosystem, I'm actually involved in this and I can actually see how it actually works, and I can see how people are bringing to life, their ideas, they improving the actual blockchain infrastructure, and they're starting to make sure that blockchain solutions or blockchain solutions that are underpinned by blockchain are not just spoken about, but they're actually making these things come to life. We then talk about DeFi and RealFi protocols, and this is where we're trying to create more financial inclusion for the underbanked and unbanked. And this is also some work that's taking place in Kenya at the moment, and where we are busy testing out loans, for example. And then one of the things we really focus on is a great end user experience. And within our ecosystem, we are playing around with a single wallet for data, value, and governance that's focused on enabling the best-in-class verification experience. So watch LinkedIn, because I'm sure I will be posting about that soon. So what does this mean for you, the listener? And where does the opportunity lie for you? And I thought that, seeing that you're spending 20 minutes listening to me, I might as well give you some value. So as a Tala Prism, we believe in a developer-driven commercialization funnel. And I think any IT or any of the 4 IR technologies would take this approach, right? Because you'd get IT infrastructure that's built, but then in order to make sure that it is taken up and more people build on it, you got to make sure that you're providing the education. And this was also hard to come by in 2018. The education was a challenge. There's a lot of self-research that I had to do, a lot of squirreling through loads of information to learn what I've managed to learn to date. So we provide the Tala Prism Pioneer Program, and within the Cardano community, there are other Pioneer programs as well that you can join. You can go to atalaprism.io and get more information there. But once our learners get through the learning program, we then usher them into the Catalyst project, where they're able to propose ideas to solve certain challenges that are put out there, and we create time in our calendars for people to talk to us one-on-one as a team, so that we can help you to, soundboard your ideas or improve your ideas. And that would hopefully increase your chances of getting funded. Once your projects are funded, we add you to another space called our space station. And this is where we introduce you to the rest of the community that's building on our product. And you're able to collaborate and really enhance and get your product going or get your use cases going. And these ideas and use cases and products don't have to only be technical, right? Because the learning program will also offer people that want to build and nurture communities, to get involved within the larger Cardano community. So even use cases that say, okay, I'd like to start a community for Cardano in South Africa. Those also get funded if the community believes that your proposal is sound. And then lastly, once you go through the building phase, we then also support you through our commercial team into, launching your project and making it go live. And it's something we would talk about, publicly. And this is how you would see yourself going from, learning to earning within our ecosystem. So just to summarize the opportunities that are out there, when it comes to digital jobs, I'd say participate in innovation programs of new communities, earn while you learn, propose ideas to address challenges. You can also get remunerated for reviewing ideas within these communities. So even if you don't have an idea that you want to bring to life, you can get involved and you can start reviewing ideas and earning. I would say you could, if you already have cryptocurrency, you can also vote within these ecosystems. So your voice is actually being heard and you're making a difference. You could receive funding and payment, you could run stake pools, and you could also look for gig work opportunities. So for example, we have someone building a gig work platform where they would, it's called Snaprilla, they would teach you how to do something, and then they would also introduce you to gig work opportunities on their platform so that you could learn and earn on their platform. When it comes to the digital economy, I would say learn how decentralized governance is being shaped and how it currently works, and how it is being improved, because this is what you're seeing on the Catalyst program as an example, where we're experimenting with decentralized governance. I would say you could use what you learn there and experiment by testing in your own current ecosystems. Learn about how tokenomics works, because people are creating all sorts of tokens and business models and so on and so forth. It's not just about, going and studying and then finding a job and working for a boss. You really are able to think about, how do I bring about new business models and business ideas, and how do I bring that to life? And you will be working within a community where you can discuss these ideas with people and really make progress. Learn how to earn crypto and use or convert it to fiat if needed, and then participate in advocacy initiatives to shape legislation related to 4IR solutions. So not just blockchain, but even AI and so on. And then when it comes to a digital future, I would say shape the future by participating now. Don't just sit back and inherit the future, because you have the opportunity to have a say. Some communities are more inclusive than others, and you will find a place where you belong. So try a couple out. Don't just give up, after trying the first one. And then we are actively creating the future of service, privacy, digital infrastructure, digital trust, and the digital economy. So join us to positively impact our future. Thanks so much for this time, and thanks so much for listening. Please add your questions to the post and I'll answer them there. To the chat. Thanks, Asipe.
Well, thank you so much, Anushka, for offering us with insight on what digital economy and digital identity is. Your contribution reminded me of a call in 2021 for the South African government to make digital identity development a priority. And this followed, after the 2020 South African Integrated Biometric Database Project, with the aim of expanding the country's digital identity and simplifying service delivery, which is quite a huge issue in our government structure in South Africa. Well, as we digest the contribution and thinking around shaping the future now, as per Anushka's words, I would like to move to our next contributor, Mr. Ronnie Mabokela, who is currently the head of Technopreneurship Center within the School of Consumer Intelligence and Information Systems. Ronnie is also a lecturer in the Department of Applied Information Systems at the University of Johannesburg. Prior to joining the University of Johannesburg in 2019, he acquired a vast amount of industry experience, having worked for over 7 years in the telecommunications sector. He earned his MSc degree in computer science from the University of Limpopo, where he obtained his undergrad degrees in computer science and mathematics. He has presented his research work on numerous platforms locally and internationally, and has a keen research interest on natural languages processing, speech technologies, multilingual sentiment analysis for under-resourced languages, etc. He is currently pursuing his PhD studies in computer science at the University of Witwatersrand. He has received numerous awards in the industry and academia, including the Second Prize Award of Research Excellence and a recipient of NRF Black African Advancement Program Award in 2020. He is a member of the South African Institute for Computer Scientists and Information Technologists. He also serves on various boards, including the Fourth Industrial Revolution for IR Advisory Committee for Education at MICT CETA. Without wasting any time, allow me to call upon Rodney to present his contribution. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Are you able to see my screen? I just want to make sure that you can be able to see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Program Director, for introducing me. I really felt like, hey, that was not me when you were reading out the bio. And I would like to, first of all, greet everyone, those who are joining us virtually and those who are actually with us on the platform, on the Teams platform. So the topic of today that I'm gonna tackle, I'm gonna just take a slightly different topic, especially coming from an academic point of view. And what I want to also say is that I just want to also include the fact that me, as the head of the Technopreneurship Center at the University of Johannesburg, would also want to elaborate more on what actually we are doing as the university to ensure that our youth are digitally ready. And it goes without saying that as we commemorate the youth of 1976, we should also ensure that our youth are digitally ready. So I chose the topic where I say digital skills. It's a compulsory. It's a compulsory for, first of all, digital jobs, digital economy, and the future. So let's zoom in into the future from the past. As we know that we have been dealing with a lot of traditional methods in terms of teaching and learning. We've acquired traditional skills that actually ended up at somewhere we had to be disrupted by the introduction of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, of which you know very well that University of Johannesburg is at the forefront of Fourth Industrial Revolution and doing it's best to ensure that everyone is included within our country. So now, these are the facts about the present, that it goes without saying that the unemployment rate in our country is quite high, and us as the this is the report from Stats SA, and as from higher education, we need to ensure that we work together with the government to reduce such impediments within our country. Another thing is that it was stated in the last, I mean, by the labor force survey that I mean 600,000 to 14.3 million compared to the second quarter, that they are indeed people. I mean, there's a decline in terms of employment. And thirdly, we have about 2 million, I mean 230 million jobs in sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, which require digital skills by 2030. And what we are trying to do as the university and the institutions of higher learning is to ensure that all of us, we position our youth and those whom we are teaching to acquire basic education as, I mean, basic digital and critical skills that are needed in the workplace. And then the study, which also was conducted by PwC, also indicated that adults without, I mean, 34% of adults without education say that they are not learning anything new digitally at the moment, and which is a serious concern. And secondly, we also noted that 53% of the workers believe automation will significantly make their job obsolete in the next 10 years, of which it makes everyone to wonder, where are we going to actually fit in? And hence, as the university, we want to be as inclusive as possible to ensure that the marginalized we reached even the marginalized in terms of upskilling and reskilling. So now I just want to show that the digital divide shows that the digital divide, it's especially in terms of internet users. We know, of course, that access to electricity, even now, we are still battling with the electricity. That is one of the contributors of us having to deliver content, digital content to the people. And the shortage of websites, digital skills in the emerging economies like South Africa, internet access as well. So that is one of those things that makes the digital divide to be an impediment to actually driving ourselves into the future. And then now, let me just zoom into what actually the digital skill is. It's actually very simple. In a simple form, you can just say it's the competency of actually using your mobile phone to perform transactions, use internet access to build technologies, and up until you actually able to use computers to perform different kind of operations, coding, and of course coding, as you can see, that nowadays is becoming an essential and integral part of technology, because you build technology using coding, which is the languages that we use to build softwares using computers. But now, digital skills, and this is something that I think we are actually trying to do better in the, higher education, is that also that according to the research, it is imperative to generate skills that are necessary for the digital economy and the skills that are necessary to pave a good pathway for job creation. And another thing is on higher education is that we need to try and expand the current. We are trying so much to expand the current courses or the current learning material to ensure that it is inclusive enough to ensure to make the education even more digital. And so another thing is that ensuring that the quality of digital skills training in the institution are expanded and improved. So the impact of digital skills will first of all make sure that we in the colleges, the lecturers in the colleges are digitally ready, and also they can be able to train our youth. And another thing is that the generating the demand for acquiring basic and intermediate digital skills amongst schools, preparing our primary schools and secondary school teachers. That is what the impact of digital skills can do, that we prepare we train our teachers to ensure that even when we receive students from primary school, from secondary school, they have an understanding of technology, they have an understanding of using computers, basic digital skills. And of course, when I joined University of Johannesburg as a lecturer, there were instances where there were instances where we find students who come from poor background, that they are not able, not that they are not smart enough to be, to deliver the content or to be assessed, but the challenge has always been how they use the use of computer is becoming a challenge. Hence, we need to start teaching our students or our learners from young age to, the use of mobile devices, smart devices, tablets, and computers. That is what even the government needs to play its role there. And then the gaps in terms of what we have, and actually the gap in terms of what actually landed us into us being disrupted by the 4IR. Why were we not ready? It's because most of the program were actually uncoordinated in a sense that, like, for an example, you have programs which is just delivering theory content. And what we are trying to do as an institution of higher learning, we are trying to move away, to alleviate issues of where you only learning the content, and also do away with programs which are only focusing on single activities. And of course, you can see that single activities. And also another thing is other old program used to just connect the university with an internet or a school with an internet, but they don't actually teach the teachers and the youth about the usefulness of this internet that they are bringing to that community. No adequate support for digital content for teachers and faculty department within to actually utilize that adequately and provide content using smart devices. Those were the gaps, which actually now I can say as the university, we need to look into the core strategies of higher learning, which must be adopted. Is that first of all, we need to establish we need an established enabling policy and develop digital skills frameworks that will actually serve the future. Reform digital skills and programs, meaning that all the programs that were not that did not have practicals can actually be programs which did not have practicals needs to be reformed to include practical and digital content. And we also need to enhance the use of technologies in teaching and learning, meaning that we can see in many I mean some of the schools in Gauteng and even in institutions of higher learning, there's always been projectors, and in fact there's no more writing on the board and all of that, and teachers are also, I mean, the lecturers and teachers and are also educated to deliver the content using digital platforms. And also the issue of also another thing is to ensure that we power the higher education system and TVET colleges with an affordable high-speed internet. We know, of course, that in our country, data is also an issue, and we cannot talk about digital skills without also talking about the fact that internet, in as much as internet is expensive, how do we then ensure that the youth that are so unemployed, how do they get access to the skills? How do they get access to the digital content? So those are the things that needs to be looked at. And then the digital skills cycle that we also need to have a look at as the university is that in each and every module or content that we create, we first look at the fact that it needs to be human-centered. It must be a digital building block. They must learn business enablers, which of course we have the ways of collaboration, ensure that our learners, the students are collaborating, they have critical thinking abilities, they are creative, and even through our assessment, we need to ensure that even the content that we put out there online, of course, we have free courses that are also there. There's basics of artificial intelligence, which anyone can just access to learn about artificial intelligence, where it comes from, and where will it disrupt, and where can you actually position yourself. And then in terms of other things like your communication data, digital design, those are the core building blocks of what we look for when we reform our contents, and to ensure that it includes data analysis, because jobs of the future will require data to be analyzed, because data is oil these days, and big data as well. It's something of the future which needs to be looked at. Managing data, how do you manage data? Are we still referring, when we refer to data management, are we still referring to managing data or using the paper-based systems? No, we now have to look at how do we use this on Excel spreadsheet as a basic start. And then before we can actually move into Power BI systems and software development, computer programming stuff, those are the things that we actually apply to ensure that before someone actually graduates and take the certificate, they have these skills to actually lend them into the job market. And then these are the current jobs, which I want to actually say that this is what Harambee is actually saying. These are the current jobs in South Africa at the moment that are so in demand. But now the question is, if these are the current jobs from a technology perspective, and I'm not saying I'm not excluding other jobs which are also from your HR. You need someone who at least understands the software engineering part. You need to, the jobs are looking for people who are understand the network. But what we're trying to do is that in as much as the jobs looks for a cloud computing specialist, what can we do as the university? We ensure that we collaborate with these role players, big tech companies, to ensure that they also provide feedback in our content to say that this is the kind of graduates that we are looking for, and these are the things that needs to be included as part of delivering the content. And practical, in terms of the practicals, this is what we're looking for. And then we build on that to ensure that by the time you graduate, you understand what it needs to be a data science operations specialist. And then zooming into the future is that we are now going to, we can see now that we've started seeing the jobs changing, and even the universities have transformed into looking now into getting data science courses. We didn't have data science courses before. Now the jobs are looking for machine learning specialists. We need to build short learning programs on machine learning and machine learning, and we need to build programs on Internet of Things, blockchain, artificial intelligence. Those are the things we need to build. But we build this together with the larger population of the industries that is actually the industry that are actually hiring our youth. So repositioning in our higher education is that first of all, we ensure that students can learn and harvest digital skills via online platforms. We have SLPs and master classes that we offer. And we, of course, you know that to actually get a content changed within the university, it's not a problem, but building a totally new content or a new course, it's sometimes time consuming. But what I want to say is that through short learning programs, which you call them SLPs and master classes, those are the quick wins which can be easily accessed, and you can upskill yourself. And another way of doing this is that if you want an Amazon specialist, we actually train you on, we partner with Amazon to actually get AWS specialist. That is just for an example. And there's actually more role players in the space to ensure that our graduates are digitally ready. And then we've digitally transformed the old way of teaching. University of Johannesburg has done the best in terms of teaching and learning innovation. And in terms of free Wi-Fi and data, it's accessible anywhere within the university. And of course, I think in many in other higher education institutions, they also have they offer free Wi-Fi because it's essential in terms of getting content on, accessing online content. We also partner with Coursera's and Udemy's. Last year we had our students had to access a large pool of contents from your Coursera. These are certificates which you can do at your comfort of your home, where you can be able to be certified a machine learning beginner. You can learn coding. You can learn how to build websites. Those are the simple skills that are required. You can learn how to build mobile apps. You can learn how to analyze the data and build interactive platforms. So another thing is we've established Entrepreneurship and Technology Innovation Center, which one of them is the Technopreneurship Center. So I will elaborate more on what the Technopreneurship Center does as I go along. And another thing is work integrated learning. We ensure that our students at the third year, what they have to do is when they are at the third level, the first semester it's learning the content that are actually based on the outcomes of the module. And on the outcome of the module is that they need to have work integrated learning, sort of some kind of they need to have an internship, go to the industry, work for 6 months, and such that you can be able and so that you can be able to graduate. So you don't graduate without actually getting the practical works before. And then We also have things like IT projects for students to actually compete in numerous IT innovation challenge and different master classes that prepare them to be digitally ready. And then we, of course, established a digital entrepreneurship ecosystem whereby and because you can see the technopreneurship is there as well, that in as much as we are looking for, we are upskilling our students to be digitally ready. The job market, it's also skewed in such a way that even if the jobs are not there, but we need to start preparing our students to have an entrepreneurship mindset. Such that they can be able to, first of all, build their own businesses and also create employment. And that's what the technopreneurship does the most, is that we also run what we call innovation hackathons. And within our innovation hackathons, like, students will gather, work together as a group. They collaborate via online platforms, via digital platforms to solve societal challenges, to present their ideas, to build ideas into actually with the aim of actually forming startups or commercializing their products. And then, of course, the university strengthens them. They provide them with incubation programs to ensure that they can be able to sell their products out there and it can be commercialized. This is an ecosystem, but we do have, in terms of hackathons, we give them short learning certificates. We ensure that students can be able to get the digital skills even outside of the university. They can be certified by Microsoft. The likes of Microsoft can be certified by PwC. They can get content. They can get content from IBM. They can learn content. We collaborate. We don't only offer the university courses. They can be able to collaborate with. I mean, we collaborate with other partners to work in elevating the digital divide. So we also have students that are actually developing agricultural. They are not from agriculture, but they build agricultural solutions. They compete in various hackathons, innovation hackathons, and they showcase their development. And yeah, they win. And some of them actually, get employed right at the hackathon spaces. They actually get the internships and the bursaries. And also offer data science hackathons where you collaborate and you start playing around with the data set and understanding, what does this data tell us? What can we harvest? What can we produce? The insights about the data. And then, of course, when it comes to the impact that we want to show the world and the country as well, is that we want to build this ship in such a way that by 2020 and beyond, this is how it looks like, is that we partner with various universities to ensure that we deliver the online content. We partner with industries. We ensure that coaching and mentoring exist within various sectors within the universities as well. We build capacity in terms of the workshops and train the students to be digitally ready. I think that's it from my side. Thank you so much. You can send the questions on the chat. I'll be able to respond. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ronnie, for your contribution, outlining, the higher education stance on digital economy, particularly on how the institutions of higher learning are preparing themselves to educate and skill the youth for digital platforms. Looking at digital teaching and learning, as well as the important thing that you mentioned, which was humanizing digital economy. You know, to advance digital transformation and digital skills, there needs to be a tight stakeholder partnership from the private sector as well as the public sector, and that includes the academic work that institutions of higher learning are doing. So thank you very much for that contribution. Colleagues and friends, our last contributor today, before moving on to the Q&A, which is quite going very well. I've received so many comments and questions on the chats via WhatsApp, as well as on our other social media platforms that we are streaming on. So our last contributor today is Ms. Aluwani Chogo, who is a spokesperson for ICT Youth Council. She is a Bachelor of Commerce degree and postgraduate diploma in labor law graduate from the University of Johannesburg. Currently, she is pursuing her postgraduate qualification in public finance and an advocate of women's rights. She is an advisory council member of the National Youth ICT Council, where she also serves as a spokesperson with a collective mandate to make South Africa a global source of tech talent by taking the fourth industrial revolution to rural South Africa, and a provincial coordinator of SAGE, Students for the Advancement of Global Entrepreneurship in Gauteng, a global platform for teenage entrepreneurs in a quest to positively contribute to the growth of the South African economy, where they teach teenagers the basics of entrepreneurship and carry them through an incubation process. She also serves as the Provincial Deputy Secretary of the Global Youth Parliament Gauteng Chapter, and an editor of a regional political newspaper, the Josie Kader, and co-author of a book titled The Africa 80, where 80 young people across Africa speak of solutions to be explored in creating an Africa they envision. Lastly, she is a YALI alumna, the Young African Leaders Initiative, which is YALI, a signature effort to invest in the next generation of African leaders. She is currently a deputy director responsible for legislator support and community outreach at the Gauteng Department of Economic Development, Agriculture, Rural Development, and Environment. Well, there you have it, everyone. Over to you, Aluwani.
Thank you so much, and good morning, colleagues. Let me just share my presentation. I hope it is visible.
Yes, it is.
Good morning. As introduced, my name is Aluwani Chogwe. I'm from the National Youth ICT Council, which is a cohort of young technocrats with a vision to make South Africa a global source of tech talent. Now, here is our premise. South Africa has played a spectator role in the epochs of 1G to 4G and within all industrial revolutions. And when we speak about Revolution 4.0, the question remains, where does it put Africa? We know that we have also the Internet of Things that has not been largely explored on the African continent. We know that we've even outsourced our additive manufacturing. We know that our systems integration are also outsourced. And we also know that we have a problem of cybersecurity. Now, what do we do to become active participants in the fourth industrial revolution? The state of the 4IR in South Africa. Digital literacy has become mandatory in the global landscape. However, a widening digital divide remains. The digital divide or technological gap speaks to the different groups with access to technology and the internet and those without. The gap continues to impact countries' potential for economic growth and development negatively. While the technological gap is a burden in developing countries, women and the girl child bear the greatest brunt of exclusion in all advancements from time immemorial. Now, the World Bank has premised South Africa as the most economically unequal society in the world by all forms of indicators, and particularly the Gini coefficient, 27 years into our democracy. This, in part, is also as a result of special planning where Black communities were designed as labor dormitories. In South Africa, a child's experience of ICT is dependent of where they are born. And this was largely evident last year in fact, in 2020, at the advent of the global pandemic, where we had children from your urban schools and Model C schools continuing with classes where children in rural Patel and rural Eastern Cape had to stop at once. And this continues to present challenges of our democracy and the lack of development that has taken place. A fundamental question remains, how do we utilize the fourth industrial revolution as an enabler of a capable state? Using technology governance to disrupt inequality. In the era of the fourth industrial revolution, information and communications technology, if tapped into correctly, would be apex in addressing poverty and South Africa's triple challenges, including unemployment and inequality. It is one of the leading enablers of potential social and economic advancement in a country where the price of a small device is a primary reason for people not being connected. This also presents a challenge to demographics. We know that a person who stays in a shack somewhere on the outskirts is more likely to be a non-participant in the digital economy than someone in affluent areas. Enabling technology governance to disrupt inequality speaks to tackling challenges emanating from the historical digital divide to interrogating emerging technology governance and gender disparities in the sector, particularly the underrepresentation of women. Now, as my two former colleagues have just mentioned, have spoken largely into the opportunities that are presented by the fourth industrial revolution. Recently, we've learned that we can use the 3D printing to address the housing backlog and to advance the face of human settlements in South Africa. The University of Johannesburg a few weeks ago had undertaken a process of building an RDP house, a 6-roomed RDP house using 3D printing. And these are one of the greatest advantages of the fourth industrial revolution. And we also have an opportunity as a country and as a government to digitize government systems into one pool. So now this would mean that I no longer have to go to the police station to certify a document for me to submit it at another government department, or even during an application process. It would be interrelated. And we are also aware of the employment opportunities. This one my colleagues have largely dived into, so I'll not dive much into it. But we've also seen a rise in the teaching of English online through the TFLEL, and we know of social media marketing. This has been dived into, whereby you have your influencers, can be on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, selling various products or even marketing various brands, and the higher the following, the more you get paid. And we've also been alerted of remote working, where we have South Africans now who are working internationally, but they connect online. However, the challenge, the greatest challenge here is presented by the fact that the time differences are not aligned. And then with the township focus, and when we speak about the township economic development, we are now also as a government enforcing integrated information technology systems, which are your pay points, which links all spaza shops for stock monitoring and placing orders. It also goes to an extent whereby these machines allow townships to be able to be centers of CompuTicket, where you can buy your bus ticket easily at a tax shop instead of going to town. Now we are doing away with the special planning and how we can bring economic activities within the township. And speaking about manufacturing, we know that as a country, we have largely outsourced our manufacturing to China, and it has greatly affected our economy in the sense that it yielded more employment opportunities for the people in China as it should have to the people of South Africa. And transforming the health sector, what is more practical with this would be the Apple Watch that monitors your BP. So we are moving into a state of the world and a state of the economy whereby one would not even need a hospital to diagnose themselves, to also figure out what potential problems they could be facing. So these machines would then come up with potential solutions to whatever it is that it has detected on your system. I know that there's a movie, I think it is Star Wars, whereby this device called the Tri-X has been put into practice to say we are now imagining the future of healthcare. What is it that we can do to make this device responsive and also interlinked to one's device, so that given that whatever it is that a potential patient is facing, you are able to alert the device to say, in fact, through this analysis, we recommend a hospital, or through this analysis, we recommend that you get 1, 2, 3 from a pharmacy. And the blockchain technology, my colleagues have alluded onto this as well. Now, South Africa also has a crime problem. This is over and above Interpol naming South Africa the world's rape capital, with women in the country more likely to be raped than educated. But we have these soft and blue-collar crimes that we need to combat as a country. And the 4IR presents an opportunity for us to directly deal with that. Number one, through automation of machines, yielding greater productivity. Now, this would speak to service delivery. When machines are automated, even though there are fears that it would threaten jobs, in fact, there's also a study that presents that more jobs would be created in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. Automating home affairs systems and border control systems to counter illegal immigration challenges and identity fraud. Automating law enforcement systems to immediately identify criminals. Now, these 4 recommendations out of the 8 emanate from the 4IR Presidential Commission. And the first one is investing in human capital development, creating an artificial intelligence institute, securing and availing data to enable innovation, and also building 4IR infrastructure. The building of the 4IR infrastructure, particularly in rural South Africa, would be of apex priority, so that we also create a level field, an equalized playing field for those that are in rural South Africa and those who are in affluent areas of South Africa. Investing in human capital. Prof. Chilidzi Marwala writes yesterday in the Daily Maverick, and I quote, "How do we reframe our conception of work in a future far different from the one we have experienced in our lived history? How do we adequately prepare our youth for employment in the digital economy?" Close quote. The Future of Jobs 2020 report suggests that while 85 million jobs could be displaced by 2025 due to the change in the division of labor, 97 million new jobs could emerge in the same period in the 26 economies included in the survey. What is the case for the Republic of South Africa? The government needs to prioritize a redesign of the human capacity development ecosystem to link our entire pool of potential employees to productive and decent work. To achieve this, a comprehensive view of the whole human capital system must be developed, and the leverage points that can be accelerated by 4IR need to be identified. Furthermore, academic institutions from, this is ranging from high schools to universities to technical and vocational education and training colleges, this is your TVETs, need to review their curriculums with a focus on the 4IR to ensure that there's a relevance of qualifications and skill set in that manner. We know that the University of Johannesburg is championing reskilling and upskilling its alumni and its current students in the fourth industrial revolution. And we also know that the Institute for the Future of Work that is launched by the University of by the Tshwane University of Technology has been launched for the purposes of a global private collaboration and invention that would look into future skills and the lack thereof. Now, what are the skills and competencies needed for the future? I think the focus has always been the fact that we need to create a pool of ICT-based courses or ICT-based personnel. But the truth of the matter is that we need all the skill set to complement a 4IR future that we are building. Some of the skills needed for the fourth industrial revolution are foundational skills, such as workforce readiness, soft skills, technical skills, and entrepreneurial skills, etc. Professional competence requires programming skills, interpretation of failure notifications, quality control, and maintaining tasks. Personal competencies include critical thinking, stress management, and reliability. We are here to say we want to make South Africa a global source of tech talent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aluani. I was just looking at the chats and I see there's a lot of conversation that is taking place there, but also, thank you, Aluani, for your reflections with data, reflecting the realities of how far 4IR goes in disadvantaged communities. As well as when you're looking into the question of can we really advance digital economy without expanding it to everyone? I loved your contribution on intersections of digital economy and the positioning of women in that stance. Gender mainstreaming is indeed important in understanding digital transformation, digital economy, and digital research. So thank you very much for outlining that for us. And also, well, all of you have given us a lot to think about, a lot to engage on, and a lot to digest. We are now moving to the Q&A session. I'm looking at the comments, and I just to say, I echo with the comments on the chats that indeed this conversation is a conversation that is very much needed, particularly for those that are going into the entrepreneurship route. So thank you very much, MBDA, for bringing this conversation to us. We have a comment from Wandile Mabaso, a digital marketing creative, copywriter, and content creative, who is saying, I'm grateful to have met with this movement and I would like opportunities for our company. We are worldwide and are also offering cybersecurity service and courses and would really like to get sponsorship on marketing our business. We are currently seeking to hire a digital marketing specialist. Could this movement please assist us and get the right candidate? I have a lot of needs and would please like to link up at any capacity. This is such great news. I had no idea that in conversations like this, you can actually find employment for someone. So please do link up with Wandile Mabaso in order to proceed with this conversation. We have questions coming from a different platform and also on WhatsApp, which I'd like to read. One of them is coming from Singa, who is working at MBDA as well, saying, last I checked, the crypto or blockchain, and I think this one is going to the first speaker, the crypto or blockchain environment was not regulated. What are the risks associated with this lack of regulation? The other question is going to Ronnie Mabokela. are the short courses and master classes being offered online accredited? Just before looking at any other hands that can be raised and comments and questions, let me give over to the two speakers to respond, and perhaps an addition from Aluwani as a comment or a question as well, starting with Anushka.
Thanks, Asipe, for the question. So what are the risks associated with the fact that cryptocurrency is not regulated at the moment? So, I think worst case situation is where we are told that we're not allowed, regulation is put in place to say that we're not allowed to use cryptocurrency or participate in it. And then you would have spent some money in that space or invested some money in crypto, and you may or may not be a bit stuck with it. But I think best case scenario would be for those of us that are working in the space of cryptocurrency to actually engage with government and participate in advocacy initiatives to shape the legislation around cryptocurrency. At times it does feel like the Wild West because you don't really know who you can trust or who you can't trust. And, it's a very new space. So we need to say, how do we start creating the frameworks and the structures for people to be able to trust certain cryptocurrency solutions, and if they do invest their money in it, what would the impact be on them, or what would the implications be? And it is quite a new space. All of these conversations are taking place. But I would say, worst case scenario is that you could lose what you've invested. So I am more cautious from that perspective. But there are people that are speculating and making money. This is not considered as financial advice in any way. Thanks, Asipe.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Ronnie, would you like to come in? You are muted, Ronnie.
Oh, sorry about that. Technology again. Yeah, thank you so much for such a, the question is, it's very good. So the content that, as an institution of higher learning, we need to have content checked and ensure that what we put out there, it has been checked. So most of the short learning programs that are offered online, and in fact, all of them are accredited programs, and those whom we partner with other institutions like your Coursera's, and you can see on Coursera, once you complete the course, you will be able to get your certificate. And there are courses which you can pay as small as like 500 to actually get the course from Coursera. Those are collaborative partners. Our courses are, of course, accredited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. There's a comment here for Aluwani as we are moving on to checking if there are any other questions. Very interesting presentation, Aluwani. Definitely agree that some people influxing the common digital platforms for teaching, learning, or selling content. Some are not participating because of the digital divide in the geographical areas they are located in and associated connectivity issues. Colleagues and friends, please note that you can also raise your hand for a follow-up question or comment, and also just to ask a new question or to offer your own reflection. But as I'm thinking around, the comment that we've just seen now, I'm looking at, the conversation you're speaking around higher education and its stance in terms of digital economy. Has there been research that looks into the impact, or to what extent has the university worked on inclusion when it comes to moving to digital transformation? I understand that teaching and learning took a turn during COVID-19, and that is very important because the introduction of technology was now a matter of urgency. But what has the university done outside of giving students laptops and staff members, a platform in terms of teaching and learning online? What has it done to advance inclusion and ensure that there's not expansion or a more gap in inequality when it comes to the higher education space, particularly when we're discussing issues of the fourth industrial revolution? Any particular speaker can just tackle that, as I am looking at more other questions from the platforms.
Yeah, I think let me start by actually answering that. So what most of the things that we've, and I think you can see that as the university have been at the forefront of fourth industrial revolution, and also to be more inclusive is that we need to actually look back and say, who is actually giving us the students? It's the basic education, and we are looking at your secondary, your primary school, and one of the KPIs as a staff is that you need to, we have what we call they call programs, which you actually have to, they call it community programs, where you first of all have to participate in community programs where you upskill, uplift, ensure that the primary schools and also some of the primary schools can are digitally ready. They can be able to use laptops. They understand how to access the content online. And another thing is that what we have done so far is giving laptops and ensuring that some of the content can be accessed without actually having to utilize massive data and buying data and all of that. And of course, there are many other things that the university has done in terms of being more inclusive, ensuring that they have platforms where even the marginalized can participate. The innovation hackathons, where people can also, those who are marginalized can be able to participate in the digital space. That is my contribution for now. I'll let other speakers to speak on this.
Thank you very much, Aluwami.
Thank you so much. So I think to what Aya was saying, in fact, the National Youth ICT Council did welcome that 10 gigabyte of free data per month for each household. And our understanding was that in our country in particular, digital literacy for learners and teachers is increasingly becoming an indispensable element of children's right to education. And now it will also speak to how do we counteract the digital divide. Obviously, there needs to be connectivity. And one factor that we said partly was that in terms of feasibility, rural coverage remains a concern requiring great infrastructural development and financial investment. Furthermore, we know that Vodacom and MTN were given mandate by the government in 1993 to ensure that all households have access to data as part of the conditions for a free license, which has not materialized to this day. So we also have disadvantages within our society and non-active participants who are supposed to assist us move away from the digital divide that we continue to face. And we said, look, emanating from that which we are saying, we called on the minister to present a rollout of timelines and a master plan so that we can start keeping them accountable to say, this is what you said, how far are you? I think we need to also create a culture of accountability in all the spheres of our society for us to fully see development. And again, looking into a sustainable solution for educational purposes and online content consumption. We asked that, in fact, we wrote to the government to implore that they connect households through uncapped Wi-Fi of at least 10 megabits per second, and the line would be controlled by the community through community-based networks fed by state-owned fiber through the towers of broadband in Franco and Centec as well. I think we all know Centec towers in every province, in every region of every province, where signals will be distributed to households with access to points in all the households. So we are waiting, and we are confidently saying, look, the future of tech and the fourth industrial revolution will require uncapped data. We recognize the supply of the 10 gig per household as the first step in the right direction. However, to build the capacity and in order to compete globally, we need all households connected to uncapped Wi-Fi. As the country and as the world progresses into 4IR, it is also imperative that the youth is equipped to engage in the opportunities that are presented by the fourth industrial revolution. And now this also speaks to the type of public and private partnerships that we can formulate to look into the reskilling and upskilling of society.
Thank you so much, colleagues. I'm looking at the comments again. Anushka, would you like to come in?
Yeah, and I think I'll make this next comment as the co-MD for an NGO that's called Girls in Tech South Africa. You know, a group of us came together and recently established Girls in Tech South Africa. So on the 1st of April, we're supposed to kick off, but COVID hit us and we weren't allowed to have any in-person gatherings at the time. But, you know, one of the things we are trying to do is to, you know, obviously get the balance in the tech world between males and females and try to get more females into tech and into senior positions. But as we talk here about, you know, the real problems we have on the ground with the digital divide, you know, you reminded me about the fact that we also realize that, you know, by just participating on LinkedIn and marketing our coursework or mentorship programs on LinkedIn, we're reaching the people that have access in the digital space. And one of the things we'd like to test is, you know, how do we reach, even if it's one cohort of mentees that's not on LinkedIn. And I actually think that, you know, through this platform, if people could reach out to me on the Girls in Tech platform or on LinkedIn to say, here's a community of mentees that we can now introduce to mentors in the tech space. And we can start creating those networks where you've got people on the one end, you know, that have access to digital means of connecting. And on the other hand, if we have people that do not have access, as Girls in Tech, we do want to take on a project to say, how do we start creating the partnerships to enable those without access, even if it's for the duration of the mentorship program, so that we can, number one, help network people, and number two, try to understand through hands-on experimentation in terms of, you know, what do people need to be enabled so that we can further, you know, expand some of our efforts. And it sounds like Aluwani is already, you know, miles ahead in this and speaking to the right people to get the right things done. But even if we can start impacting those handfuls of people to bridge this digital divide, you know, we as Girls in Tech really want to open up our space to say, please reach out to us and let's see how we can help. Thanks, Asipe.
No, thank you very much. Colleagues, please come in with your hands and comments. But as we're waiting for any other comments and questions, building on to, the conversation that we're having in terms of higher education, basic education, and the education system of South Africa in general, and how the system can incorporate, digital economy through technology advancement. I'm thinking around, if the panelists can share their sentiments on the importance of digital leadership style. I know we've spoken a lot about what the community needs, what the students have received, but in these institutions, not only in higher learning, what is the position of digital leadership style, even in the governance structures, particularly that of communication, which is reflected in so many platforms, in so many issues that are currently happening in South Africa? And has that been reflected now, the digital leadership style, has that been reflected in policies that we see in institutions, even in government itself? So what is their stance when it comes to digital leadership? The other conversation that I really wish we can have is based on, the translation of 4IR concept documents into indigenous languages. Now, some of the things that hinders the progress or that opens or widens the gap of inequality is language as a barrier. And by language, not only meaning the translation to indigenous knowledge, but also the unpacking of the academic language that is used in this document. So has there been work done in translating the 4IR and, digital economy documentations and concepts into indigenous languages? If you can just comment on that, colleagues, as I'm looking into the chats. If there's nothing, we'll move over to the closure of the discussion. I think let's start. Okay, Anushka.
Okay. So in terms of digital leadership style, so I really believe that, we can be talking about 4IR technology and the things that need to be done. But I think the first step is to say, what's the first action we can take to make this real? What's the first action we can take to start being more inclusive and so on and so forth? So when it comes to digital leadership style, I think that we have to realize that, everyone is allowed to say what they want to say and behave the way they want to behave. And in the digital world, this is, open to the whole world, seeing what you have to say on places like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And sometimes also seeing how you behave because your videos are out there, right? But when it comes to digital leadership style, I really believe that, we can try to be inclusive and we can try and talk shop all day on certain platforms and in certain environments. But sometimes we need to create that half an hour or 1 hour, whether it's once a month or once a week, to just engage with individuals as human beings, and to try and understand what's happening in your space, how's things going, because there are so many different aspects to our lives. And, that further enables building rapport with each other, potentially even just, being able to brainstorm things in a very informal situation or meeting. And these kinds of engagements will definitely lead to better outcomes instead of just the formal meetings that we need to do to get our jobs done and tick our KPIs. On your second point, in terms of 4IR and translating this to indigenous languages, I think that, there's definitely room for this. So I haven't been involved in all of the other 4IR technologies as closely as I am now with Cardano, but I've definitely seen proposals in Project Catalyst, as an example, to convert material into Japanese or, other languages, because the material is primarily created in English at the moment. And I am seeing that the community is voting to fund projects like this because they know that translating the material into other languages will lead to a broader user base and a more inclusive community on the platform. So I am seeing that this work is starting to happen, and I would like to see proposals come through to say, let's convert the material into Zulu, into Xhosa, into other languages that will help our population in South Africa to actually grow. And again, if there are people interested in getting more involved and figuring out how to get this going, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. My details are in the chat, or I am Anushka Soma Patel on LinkedIn. Thanks, Asipe.
Thank you very much, Anushka. Do we have any other additions from the panelists? Ronnie?
You are picking on me. All right, so let me just, my contribution are as follows when it comes to digital leadership. It's that we are living in the world where one needs to continuously keep on learning, especially in terms of digital leadership style. So what I'm trying to say is that in as much as I don't think there is one stop shop for a specific leadership style, that digital leadership style that is out there, but one still need to remain professional when engaging with other people, and you still need to continuously ensure that even people that you're engaging with, either from the top or either from the bottom, they still understand that this is a digital space. So, and another thing just to add to that is that as the university, you might be wondering, how do actually leaders actually participate in this digital space, so, and actually remain competent. And there are programs within the university to actually keep on upskilling on how to use, how to present yourself on numerous platforms, digital platforms. How do you actually lead digitally? So there are programs to upskill. And then when it comes to the issue of languages, that's my area of specialty because, of course, my PhD is on actually finding solution for under-resourced languages. And let's start with this. The first off and foremost, the issue has always been the issue of data. Where do we get data to actually train digital systems to start operating in our home languages? Like if you wanna build something that I can access information on using my home language, Sepedi, and that needs systems which can be trained on, and you require data to build a system that behaves like that. And of course, if you can check now on Google Translate, for an example, Google Translate now, you can be able to translate in Sepedi now, you can be able to translate in isiZulu. Those translation systems have always been there. What what we need to do is now we need to start utilizing those systems to actually build content in our home languages, and also utilize our own translators to start engaging, to start delivering content using our local languages. And within our university, I've seen numerous programs and also committees which actually want to start delivering content. They want to just decentralize, decolonize the English language into actually delivering content using. So you can either want to, you can either choose to learn in Zulu, because I understand that also language barrier is also one of the things that becomes a challenge to most of our people or young of the youth in terms of learning the content, and also those who are already not only the young ones and even the adults. It's also a challenge. And I mean, imagine if I were to access or maybe ask Google a question in my home language. That will be easy for me to type that question. But when it comes to English, it becomes a challenge. And you can see even on our chat, if we were to ask people to start sending questions in their home language, we'll get plenty of questions. So a language barrier is also one of the challenges, as actually shown in one of the studies, that it's a challenge of many people actually participating in the digital space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, for that contribution. Alwani, would you like to come in?
Thank you so much. I'm largely covered by my colleagues. I like one factor about this, the fact that there's public and private partnerships, there's civil society, there's academia, there's stakeholders, different stakeholders also advising government. We saw how diverse the Presidential 4IR Commission was. So in terms of leadership, I'm very happy that government or the president resorted to working with industry experts who know much more about the field to advise. And we know that the research is ongoing. And as I've mentioned, the Tshwane University of Technology's Future of Institute of Work is also doing research actively. I know that it was launched sometime last year, but there's research that is undergoing. And the University of Johannesburg as well is researching actively. And the beauty about the University of Johannesburg, I'm biased because it's also my alma mater, is that it goes out into the communities and it upskills every member of society. It reaches out to your private sectors, public sectors. You know, they've formulated a lot of partnerships that speak to reskilling and upskilling. And I also agree that, fully agree that language becomes a barrier. And it hinders participation in the digital economy. Let us translate the language in a language that people can understand. And I think as well, we are always speaking, identify people that we can work with, that people in those particular communities are comfortable with working with, and also they can easily understand. If Ronnie is from Muleji, and I'm coming from the National Youth ICT Council, let me meet up with Ronnie, let me upskill him and unskill him, let me explain the concepts to him so that he goes to better explain the concepts to his community. So it is not an abstract a journey that should be traveled alone, but it needs the participation of everyone. We all need to be industry players, active players within the building of a capable fourth industrial revolution, South Africa. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, colleagues, for your contributions. I have looked at the chats. There are no other new comments or questions, and there are no hands raised. I'll just give it 1 second or 2 seconds maybe, just to see if there's anyone who'd like to raise their hand before moving back to the speakers to do their closing reflections, and then I will be closing the session. Going once, twice. Well, that is it. Colleagues, I'll give over to the panelists just to offer their closing remarks or closing reflections of 1 minute each, starting with Anushka.
Thanks, Asipe. So thank you for inviting me to speak at this webinar. You know, I'd like to say that, you know, it's really great to see that there's a lot of work going into upskilling fellow South Africans, the efforts with hackathons and so on from University of Johannesburg. But I know we've also had other such hackathons from the AI in Africa movement as well. And I'm sure that there will be many more. However, as Aluweni mentioned, we need to make sure that we get connectivity to all citizens, because that is the key to unlocking the power of the digital economy going forward. And this doesn't mean that everyone has to be a developer or a very technical person, but what it will do is that it will unlock the ability for everyone to participate in a digital economy so that they can facilitate payment for their services much quicker and with ease. So yeah, if there's anything more I can do in my capacity and get involved to move this forward and move the dial on, enabling closing this gap of the digital divide, please reach out to me. I'm happy to get involved where I can and to add value. And thank you for hosting us on this platform. It's a really great job that you're doing. Take care.
Thank you very much, Anushka. Moving on to Rodney and then Alu.
Thank you very much, Asipe, for inviting me to participate in the webinar. It's been such an insightful. I've learned a lot from my colleagues as well. But what I also want to say is that digital skills remain an essential part of our future. In order for us to start, actually actively participating in this digital economy and the future. So one of the things that we all need to know is we need to continuously build on we need to continuously upskill ourselves. Within the University of Johannesburg, we have hackathons that we run. We have innovation hackathons. We have digital space where the youth can participate. This university, the Technopreneurship Center is not for UJ students only. It's for the large community, those who want to actually participate, learn new things, learn how to solve problems, using computers, using mathematics, using any sort of devices that they can actually be comfortable in. We are building robots, we are building sensors for various areas. So yeah, I think that just then you can interact with me via my email. You can also check Ronnie Mabokela on LinkedIn. I'm always posting very insightful and insightful information. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you very much. Alu, you may come in.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to learn. Mine is one, and it is to say we need to continually keep government accountable. We have the most brilliant and greatest policies under the sun, and for us to see the development that we yearn and sought after, we need to continually keep the government accountable and also become active participants. I know that government institutions, many of them have these skills development programs within the ICT sector. Let's upskill ourselves. Also the MTN Foundation as well. You can check them out on their website, but let us continually learn, let us continually relearn and assist others as well in that which we understand. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for those closing reflections. Colleagues and friends, we have come to the end of today's conversation webinar. #7. First of all, I'd like to, thank MBDA for bringing us these advanced discussions that are very relevant and needed in our community, in our country, and in the global spectrum. So thank you so much for the work that has been done in bringing together today's conversation by the IT group, by the colleagues, Pumza and Yiswa, those who are working at MBDA, and also by expanding the conversation not only on Teams platform, but archiving this conversation on YouTube as well as Facebook. I know it takes a lot of work to put together such a conversation, so thank you very much. Also, a huge gratitude to the speakers for gracing us with their presence, for sharing their expertise, and also for sharing their time with us. It is clear from your contribution that there is a lot that is being done in institutions, but also there can be a lot that these institutions can do in reworking and also understanding digital economy and what is needed for us to progress in the 4th industrial revolution. So thank you so much for your contribution. We would not have had this robust conversation and educational discussion without the participants who have joined us today from Facebook, from YouTube, as well as this platform. So thank you very much for bringing your energy into this space and for thinking with us on the future of employment in the digital economy world, and also for bringing employment, because one of the comments have brought in an employment opportunity. So thank you very much. Siyabulela ngokuba nithe nabanathi namhlanje. From uMampehle ndithi nangamso. Do have a great Thursday further, and thank you to MBDA for inviting me to host this program. Thank you very much.